You are now listening to the Cinema Scholar podcast.
Welcome back to the Cinema Scholar podcast. It's Matt, here with my good friend Stephen Higgins. And today,
Howdy, folks.
We are talking about the Disney-Pixar animated film Soul. It was scheduled for theatrical release. Because of this COVID pandemic, they decided to release it on Disney Plus on Christmas 2020. It's directed by Docter and Kemp. Stars Jamie Foxx, Tina Fey, Graham Norton, some other great people. And we're going to get into this, Steve. Okay, another, movie in a long line of Disney-Pixar, the collaboration. Did it live up to the Disney-Pixar name? Do you put it in the same category? Toy Story, Inside Out, Monsters, Inc. Wow.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, this is the first animated movie I've seen in a long time. I don't think I've seen the last 4 or 5 Disney Pixar movies.
Cool.
That being said, I do love animation. I loved Toy Story, you know that. Buzz Lightyear was my hero.
Still is.
WALL-E, one of the great movies of all time. I firmly believe that. But that being said, I do love this movie, and because I haven't watched animation in a long time, I was blown away by the animation quality in this.
Pixar's gonna Pixar,
The detail, the attention to detail is insane. Next level. I did not know that animation could look this good.
Yeah. There's when he's playing the piano, you can see the reflection of his hands in the piano. It has that sheen on it. I don't know how they do that. I'm not going to pretend to understand what goes into that, but
I don't know.
It takes a lot of time.
The one of the closing scenes where he finally plays with the jazz quartet.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the scene, because they go from song to song, they progressively get a little bit sweatier. It's crazy. The attention to detail, the animators. I mean, shout out to you. You guys are the real heroes here.
And they had to do it with some of the COVID stuff still.
Yeah.
Animation was one of kind of the few, I guess, departments of the film industry that could still kind of carry on. It just had to be remote, but they still got it done. It still looked beautiful. I mean, that's cinematography in an animated movie, kind of where you decide
Some of it looks real.
Yeah, it really does.
I mean, the scene, one of the opening scenes where, what is it, Dorothea Williams? Is that the name of the famous jazz musician?
Yeah.
Where he walks into the club and she's playing her saxophone.
Yep.
Right? The saxophone looks real. I mean, it is so incredible.
Steven, it's animated, bro.
Is it really, dude? Man, I watched the whole thing. I thought it was real.
Wait a minute. Yeah, and I feel I knew kind of watching it that all the piano keys in his hands had to be accurate. You just figured Pixar would do that, and I just found there's trivia where
they're not gonna fudge that, man.
Totally could. But they're the cream of the crop. I mean, I don't really DreamWorks. I feel is second best, but that is a big gap almost. No disrespect to Shrek,
No,
How to Train Your Dragon.
Disrespect.
But DreamWorks has Trolls
Madagascar, buddy.
Yeah, it's not the same caliber movie. Megamind, I'll give you Megamind. I'll give you Megamind.
What about Shark Tale, Over the Edge? I mean, these are some of the greats. The B movie.
Okay.
Are you kidding me?
Listen.
These are truly some of the greats.
Pixar is the GOAT, and DreamWorks is for the memes. I don't know. Pixar is your wife. DreamWorks is the fun, one night stand.
Whoa, Matthew.
Just a little analogy for you from the streets.
Matt, DreamWorks does Kung Fu Panda, one of your favorite movies of all time.
That's actually true, and I did a poll on Twitter yesterday about a bear fight, and to see who would win between the Charmin Bears, the Berenstain Bears, 9 Winnie the Poohs, and Po the Panda, the Kung Fu Panda. And I think Po's winning right now. Yeah.
Man, I should get a Twitter just so I can vote on these polls.
I had a train fight last week. Thomas the Tank Engine won that one.
Oh, Jesus.
Over the Polar Express Snowpiercer. and
Are
the
you
train from
Snowpiercer?
Unstoppable. No one voted for the train from Unstoppable. I don't know if anyone
would've
knows that
voted for
movie.
that.
It was
It's
kind
a
of
great
an
movie.
obscure reference.
If you're ever flicking through FX at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday, you might come across it.
Denzel, Chris Pine.
Great movie.
His daughter watches the whole thing from a Hooters. It's very good. Very good film. Wow, that was a good tangent. Let's get to this movie.
Let's dive into Soul.
I'll
Sorry,
ask
folks.
you, how much of this did you know going into it? Like anything about it?
Nothing. Besides that, it was Jamie Foxx in a movie. What I thought was a movie completely about jazz.
Right.
So my first reaction watching it is that the first 10 minutes before he dies is all like is real life per se, and then all of a sudden we go into where they're the unborn souls or the afterlife or the great beyond, I think they call it.
Great Before.
And then the great before
is the souls, and the great beyond's that weird sun thing. Yeah.
But all of a sudden we're in this totally different world, and I didn't know that. I thought it was all in, I guess, reality. I thought it was all going to be him in New York City.
Yeah, I did too.
Maybe
bro.
that's dumb. I just didn't look into it too much. I didn't watch a trailer or anything.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think Jeremy Jahns did review this, and he does talk about how it's in the trailer that he falls down the manhole cover. Like, brutal, first of all. But if I didn't know that was coming, I think it depends on how you land.
I think he would have been screaming with a couple shattered legs.
It's a good point, actually. He just went straight to the old Great Beyond.
What's up with that, Pixar? I mean, he must have doinked his head pretty hard.
Yeah, he definitely fell head first. But if he stepped, I don't think he would have to hit his head on like the rim of the manhole cover. And then he's a long guy,
He's lengthy.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Also, I feel like if you had an open manhole cover, there would be cones around it or something.
Not New York City, baby.
If that's on you at the end of the day. But like, if I didn't know that was coming, very jarring. And then he's just like, "I'm dead. I don't want to die." And you're like, "Whoa, this is brutal."
Some of this was not for kids.
No.
Some of it was genuinely spooky.
I would argue like most of it was not.
Yeah. First of all, obviously it deals with a pretty existential crisis in this man's life, and something that everyone thinks about, obviously, is death and dealing with it, and people not wanting to, go to the great beyond accept it. I think that's what surprised me about it, is like I wasn't ready for that. I thought it was a movie about jazz. And the majority of the movie is about him dealing with death.
Yeah. I mean, it's about as much about jazz as like Sound of Metal was about metal,
That's
where
true.
it comes in at the beginning and the end, but like not really.
Yeah.
It's cool though, like we meet Joe. First of all, I love the Disney soundtrack is played by the middle school band. That was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Way to open it up.
It was a good way to intro it.
And it starts off with like a win, technically, where it's like, "You got a full-time job, dude." And he's like, "Damn, it's kind of the classic like artist thing where it's like, do you, have a full-time job and do art on the side, or do you try and pursue art as like a full-time career?" And I like how they immediately put him in that kind of box, and he has like the conflict with his mom at the like tailor shop. And the cool thing, this is one of my biggest problems with Joker, was Arthur Fleck like wasn't good at anything, and this we immediately understand. Like he talks about to his band class how like his first time at a jazz club and he plays piano, and we like immediately understand like this guy can tickle some keys,
Tickle the ivory, man.
He can tickle the ivory.
This guy knows how to tickle those ones and twos.
Listen, he's got the chops. Okay, like we understand that immediately. Like this is a guy that, I mean, we kind of get that he's kind of down on his luck, but he definitely has the talent. It's just a matter of like showing the world, So I like that. And then he kicks it, man.
He kicks it pretty quickly.
And it's like, when you think about the like, what do you call those things in airports that moving walkways? Mm-hmm. It's like he's on the moving walkway to the great beyond, just like weaving through the crowd, like trying. Yeah. You're like, holy crap, this is like brutal.
See, that's where it's like I think that's sort of the genius of Pixar and Disney is that they make them all these like nice, cute characters,
Yeah,
but they're all dead people that are trying to either get away from death or have accepted it. Like it's a scary, scary thought.
really is.
But they're all these little fuzzy characters.
Some of them
I
are
think
like
that's
just
so
like
they
old
can,
people.
sell the toys.
Yeah, you just get a soul Joe for Christmas. I could see it. He kept his glasses and hat so you knew it was him. 'Cause
Yeah.
apparently his soul can't see either. So he yeets out of there
He eats.
into the great before, and they think he's like a mentor. He's like a former Scandinavian scientist or something. Psychologist?
Yeah,
I
he's
think
a child psychologist.
So I don't know. It was kind of, you get like all the exposition of this like weird place, like in these unborn souls and this Jerry thing.
Jerry.
That's like a
First of all, I could not help when they kept saying Jerry. I think of Jerry from
Parks
Rick
and Rec.
Morty.
Oh, okay.
Oh, him too.
I was thinking because it's Jerry and Terry, and I was like, all right,
That's
this is
true.
Parks and Rec. You thought of Rick and Morty.
Yeah, Jerry's the husband.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
an
yeah.
idiot. Everyone hates Jerry.
That's true. No one hated Jerry in this, I don't think. Maybe Terry, a little
I
bit.
think Terry hated Jerry.
She goes, "Quiet coyote, kids." That was funny. I like that a lot. You know. And so
Did you find those characters creepy?
Jerry.
Yeah, the way they
I just, like,
animated
don't
them
know
and the
what
way
they
they drew
were.
them, they were like some weird Picasso cubist
like,
characters,
like
and like that's
amoebas.
what they chose.
Yeah.
And I don't know, for some reason I found them a little creepy.
They were a little creepy. I mean, it's very, just the Great Before in general is very like weird, like futuristic, like sterile. I don't know. It's like when you see those like, I don't even know it's like Star Trek or something where, or like We Fit. Maybe that's a better way to describe it.
It's like
It's
the-
definitely like We
it's like
Fit.
the
No,
Wee
that's more what it's
Plaza or
like.
whatever it is.
Yeah, where it has that weird like soft keys music.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah,
Elevator music.
it's really freaky. There is a creepy kind of element to it, and you have all these weird souls, and the Jerry woman thing is like weird dimensionally. Like you can't. It looks different from different. I don't know. It was weird. I agree. Weird, creepy element to that.
Oh man, we are good.
We are good. And then we meet 22 because he goes to the mentor orientation thing and gets paired up with the 22nd soul ever made. We'll say, I don't know, how do you want to refer to this thing?
What?
22.
Wasn't.
I don't know what its pronouns are.
Oof, you gotta be careful.
It is Tina Fey.
It's Tina
But
Fey.
she
I'm
also
pretty
makes
sure.
the point that, we'll just go she because it's a she voice.
Oof, Matt.
We'll go with it.
Canceled, buddy. Let's just
We'll
call
just
it
say 22. All right. So 22 is the 22nd soul ever made. Had a ton of mentors. Gone through the ringer of mentors.
Truly.
Really cool. Here's what I'll say. So immediately we know that Joe needs to get back to Earth, into his body.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man on a mission. Even better than that, Steven, is that it's a ticking clock because he has to be there at 6 o'clock sharp for his jazz show.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we have stakes. We have a guy that wants something. And then 22 is like the exact opposite, where she's like, I don't want to go to Earth. You know, she just wants to live out her days in the great before. And so they're kind of like great foils at the beginning because they both, like their wants align technically, but like personalities don't. And we see that what they want eventually kind of transforms, and that's when it gets a little more, you know, there's a lot more tension between them towards the end, which is cool. So that was interesting little intro, and we kind of follow both of them throughout most like the film. More or less, this is
I
our pairing.
like that aspect of the film, in that so many animated films, because it's animated and you can do so much, is like the climax or the problem is always this like grand scale problem. Like I have to save the world, or I have to save this person, or save the city or whatever. And in this one, it's just Joe, just like a typical New Yorker that has to get to his jazz show.
Right.
Like, it's such a mundane little piece of his story, and especially putting it in a city like New York where there's so many people and there's so many lives, and yet all we want to care about is Joe getting to his jazz show because that's his goal. He's a middle school teacher who clearly is a little bit down and out. He finally gets his shot, dies, falls in a manhole, breaks his legs, and then dies, assuming that's how it went.
We'll say instant painless death for the
fine, instant painless death. And that's all we care about is he needs to get to his jazz show because this is his big break that he finally got.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the as someone that has like taken classes in writing, like the structure of this like film in general is just like a master class in kind of like hitting all the right beats. Because when you talk about a character having a strong want.
Now explain that to me, someone who's a mere idiot in writing.
Okay. No. Well,
a mere mortal.
When you look at like structure, some of the beats you want to hit, not want to, but like conventionally, is like the inciting incident. So like your character's living in they call it like the status quo. So that's him in middle school or whatever. And then he falls down a manhole. So that's something that interrupts the status quo. He doesn't want to deal with it immediately because he's like, holy moly, this isn't good. And this
isn't good.
Yeah, this is very bad. And so another part of this is like... I
hope that's how I react when I die and inevitably go to hell. Oh, man.
When you're on the moving walkway downward. This isn't good.
Holy moly. Oh, man, this isn't good.
Dude, that is what my screenwriting professor said was the inciting incident. I don't know what to tell you. It's just holy moly.
Holy moly, this isn't good.
You want your audience to think, holy moly, this isn't good. Around page 10. Yeah, so this also, we talked about this with Sound of Metal a little bit too, where a character has like a lie throughout the whole kind of film, like a different worldview that will change eventually. And we see with Joe, his kind of worldview, I mean, we won't really know this till the end, but really his worldview is like, he associates his success in jazz as his success in life. You know what I'm saying? So when that inciting incident happens, he's clinging on to that lie. Like, in order for my life to amount to anything, I have to like succeed and become a jazz musician. So his whole thing by like the end of Act 1, which is when your character goes on this journey, which is when he actually comes back to Earth or whatever, is kind of jumps off of that. So he has his goal. What he wants is to get back into his body before 6 o'clock to play like the jazz show. And there's going to be all these obstacles that are going to be in the way and come about through his decisions and through, there's a lot of accidents that come on the way. 22 becomes a problem. All the things that get in the way of his goal. And like Aaron Sorkin calls it like intention and obstacle. That's basically all story is like you have a character, they want something and something stands in their way. And basically the whole story is them trying to, get what they want. And part of structure too is that towards the end, they get what they want, but it's not what they need. You know what I'm saying? Like in Sound of Metal, he gets the surgery, but it doesn't ultimately get him what he wants, what he needs, in like accepting that he can't get his hearing back. So we'll get to that point too when we kind of go through the narrative of Soul. It was kind of like a long tangent on structure. But let's get back into like the actual kind of story here. So they go to like he's like her mentor now, and she realizes he's not like Bjorg Borenson or whatever his name is. And they go. Did you notice like she presses his hand on that thing and you see his life and it's just like him alone in like restaurants and.
Is my favorite scene. It's my favorite scene because of the way they contrast it. So I have like two scenes because it's like it's supposed to be, I guess, like an exhibit, like a museum exhibit of his life and all of his moments. But in this one, all he sees are his worst moments when he's alone, when he feels like he's a failure because obviously he's not a successful jazz musician. He's resorted to a middle school jazz teacher. And then they contrast that at the end when he goes back into his apartment and sits down at the piano and plays a song on the piano and he sees all of his best moments.
And they're the same. He just looks at him differently, kind of.
Yeah.
You know?
I love that. I thought it was beautiful.
It's awesome. And that kind of gets, like, the whole theme of everything.
Yeah, it's very existential. I kept thinking, like, what would my life look like if I walked through a museum exhibit of my own life?
Yeah, mine would probably also just be eating, like, pie at a restaurant alone. A little pecan pie. I think that's what it was.
I love pecan pie.
Yeah. See, that's not too bad, you know? Come on, Joe.
I want my life animated by Pixar.
You think?
Yeah.
You have to fall down a manhole cover then.
I can make that
Go
happen.
to the great before.
I'll test the theory out, man. I think I would just shatter my ankles.
Podcast host proves Pixar wrong. In hospital for 6 months.
Maybe we'll get to add it to the goofs under IMDb page for Soul. Actually, if Joe fell down a manhole, he would just merely shatter his ankles.
Oh, man. Brutal. I mean, he doesn't technically die, so there's that. He still lives. He's on life support, you know?
That is true. I mean, that's the big switch up.
But
he
gets life support. Body is fine.
Yeah.
Riddle me that, Pixar.
I mean, he should be waking up with nails in his ankles.
Oh, dear God. Just graphic.
Sorry.
It's God. There's a different version of this that's just R-rated, where 22 goes into his body and just screams in pain. Oh man. There's also the Hall of Everything, because basically the whole idea, the like item that they need to get is 22's like Earth badge, is what it's called, where you get this spark and it completes your time and you're ready to enter a body or whatever, and you go to the Hall of Everything to figure out like what you're into, and 22 like isn't in anything. She's like an arsonist or something. She liked that, but that doesn't count. And then Jerry shows up and is like, all right, it didn't work, too bad. But then 22's like, no, let's try again or something. And then she takes Joe to this, like, the zone. Remember the zone?
The zone, yes.
I actually don't think they give it a name. It's like the astral plane between the real world and spiritual world or whatever.
We're the Astro Travelers.
Where the Houston Astros play. That's actually Minute Maid Stadium.
What was Graham Norton's name? Moonwind.
Moonwind.
Moonwind Surfs, man. That place was genuinely creepy.
Oh, the like weird cow people, men things.
The people
terrifying.
that roam around, I think they call them like lost souls, like people who get so absorbed. That was terrifying. The people, basically, I think the idea is the people that get so absorbed in the zone actually end up being consumed.
Right, they say it's like an obsession. The joy becomes an obsession.
An obsession. Yeah.
And then it's the guy with the metal detector, and it's like with finds like these, that was that guy that's trying to pay for his college education.
But they could make a convincing, scary horror movie out of those characters.
For real.
Out of that world. It was terrifying. It was like so creepy.
And then you have just Jack Sparrow, man, coming in on his ship.
British talk show host Graham Norton.
Also people that spin signs in media representation again. We just talked about the Joker. Moonwind doesn't get beat up by random kids, but...
That is true.
I don't know if people that make movies now a lot spun signs in their 20s or something, but that's coming up a lot, and that can't be a coincidence.
I mean, he's in the zone, man.
he's clearly very talented.
Vision.
A lot better than Arthur Fleck at it. So there's that, and then Moonwind. It's like, all right, I can get you back in your body, bro. But then 22 falls in, and so we have the problem now. 22's in Joe's body, Steven. And Joe is in a therapy cat's body. You know? So that's your big obstacle. What did you think when that happened?
Man, what a turn of events, I'll tell you what.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
No, I can't say I did either.
I can't say I was ready for that. I almost thought that he was gonna... I thought they were going to be together in the body, and they were going to have, like, dueling personalities as Joe. and like she was gonna have to learn how to live in the world while he's just concerned about getting to his show.
That could have worked too.
I thought they were gonna both fall into his body and be some sort of dueling personalities, but they went another way, and Joe is a cat. And I'm not talking about a cool jazz cat. Okay. That one's for free, folks.
He was already a cool jazz cat, but now he's a literal jazz cat.
He's a jazz cat.
I think though that they probably maybe went cat route because they were like looking at this and was like, yeah, kids probably aren't going to really dig the existential thing going on here. Maybe we'll just throw a cat in there, a little animal humor, get an animal sidekick, funny voice play and stuff. A lot of humor came out of that kind of situation, which is it's like a Freaky Friday thing, but with a cat.
Yeah.
And an unborn soul. It's a pretty original take on the age-old Freaky Friday concept. Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that she's an unborn soul. One of the most terrifying lines of the movie is Joe, when he's first meeting 22 and they're walking around in the Great Before or whatever, and he's like, man, like, this is weird, you're a soul or something like that. Like, don't you feel depressed that you're just in here all the time? And she's like, no, your soul can't get crushed in the Great Before. That's what Earth's for. Yeah. I was like, damn.
Put that on your plate,
Put that on your plate and eat it for breakfast, man. That'll ruin your day.
You know what? If I was an unborn soul, I would have second thoughts, Get your Earth badge. Be like, no, I'll just kick it in my box.
I think that's that's the storyline, I think, besides Joe, that we really want to care about throughout this, is that she's this pessimistic, or 22, sorry, is this pessimistic sort of
misanthrope.
Misanthrope, okay.
There's a vocab word for you. Put that on your plate.
Look that up, Jamie. We don't have Jamie, guys. We don't have a Jamie.
You could still say it.
22 is this pessimistic misanthrope, but she comes to learn to love life, which is something that, surprising that Joe is the one to do it when she's had she's had literally every historical figure mentor her. And all of a sudden Joe's the one to do it. Like, yeah, I don't believe that.
It really tarnishes those people's legacy,
I know. Sorry, Abraham Lincoln.
You know what? Joe was going to be united you brought the Union together, but you couldn't get 22 to Earth. So
yeah,
it's tough on the resume when you're looking at Hall of Fame mentors. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so you can't feel anything in the Great Before. Like, they tried pizza and like there's no senses, and I think a big part of her like arc is like just the idea that she can feel like taste and like feel around her, because she has like the whole pizza and the lollipop and the like air blowing up her suit or whatever, and it's just kind of, she's never experienced that before, and it's kind of those little things that can be, it's like Joe says, that's just regular old living,
But it's also, I think it's purposefully childlike.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they want her, oh my God, they want 22 to be almost like this newborn child who's experiencing all these sensations in the world for the first time.
Yeah.
In that she thought she didn't need to feel any of that. She didn't want to feel any of that. But when she finally experiences it, it is very childlike, like having a lollipop or, giving
a bagel to a busker.
Pizza, or experiencing music for the first time.
Yeah.
I think it's very purposefully childlike.
Right.
Even though, and it's the funny contradiction of like, Joe is this middle-aged man in a suit with, some gray hair. But the purpose is that like they put 22 in his body, and it's like Joe is experiencing all this for the first time again, but he's looking it's almost like an outer body experience for Joe, in that he's in this cat looking at himself experiencing all these things.
It's trippy,
man.
It is.
You ever done DMT?
We're really Joe Rogan experience right now.
Yeah.
We're like the best. We're like the best podcast in the history of podcasts right now. Yeah, no, I definitely, that's true. I agree with everything you said. I mean, it's good storytelling where all right, so they have a new goal. They got to find Moonwind. They find Moonwind. Moonwind's like the planes don't align for a while, so you're going to have to like figure it out. So then they have a new problem. They get back to his apartment. Connie shows up, the trombonist, tromboneer. I don't know what you call a person that plays a trombone. I think trombonist sounds better, but tromboneer is kind of like a dark horse candidate there.
Tromboner. Write in, folks. If you play the trombone, let us know.
There's never, like, who's the most famous trombone person? Getting the tromboner. What if Joe said that to Connie on the staircase?
Oh man, trombone shorty.
That is a felony. Sheesh. So Connie's like, listen, I don't want to play.
Trombone shorty, Matt.
What is that?
He's a musician. Guys,
That's
shout
not a
out.
real person.
Go check out Trombone Shorty. I actually photographed one of his shows.
Oh, also while you're at it, look up Turquoise. Great trombone.
Oh, that is it.
Gang.
Worst band ever.
Okay. Not sponsored by Turquoise. New album.
Oh, the Power Rangers of jazz.
Is that even considered jazz, or is that just like freaking
the Power Rangers of
ska? No, I don't know.
ska. That's not ska.
I don't know what ska is. Where's our Pixar ska movie?
Turquoise.
I'm not sure what Turquoise is.
Turquoise.
The best Turkish jazz band ever. You getting anything there, Steve-O?
No.
Yeah,
How do you spell their name again?
I think I'll just do
T-O? Or T-U?
It's definitely UAZ. I don't like how I know that, though. Turquoise band. Brooklyn-based funk band. Funk. I guess it's funk. Oof, you know what? Their logo looks very similar to Tricycle Films.
Oh, there they are.
Our favorite band.
American funk.
Dude, how do they make any money? They have like
Power
12
Rangers
people.
funk.
Do they split that up amongst themselves?
Dude, I don't know.
How did we get talking about
that is way too close to the Tricycle Films.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
We're going to get in a lawsuit for that.
We're talking about trombones.
Oh, right. Connie on the stairwell. Interesting moment there, actually, where she's like, Mr. Gardner, I don't want to play trombone anymore, but like, let me play this little piece here. And then she gets in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's just the kind of honesty of, because 22 agrees with her event, where it's like, yeah, like schooling is like the, I don't know, oppression of the upper class.
She starts quoting George Orwell.
Yeah, and she's like totally into it. And then she hears her play. Probably the first time 22 hears music, I want to say. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think it is. And
no,
she's
hadn't
like,
she already heard the Subway? Oh, no.
I don't think
this
that's
is before,
yet.
right?
Yeah. And she's like, wow, you're really good at it. Like, you seem to love it. And Connie's like, yeah, I should probably just keep going. She's like, yeah, you probably should. And then, like, 22 doesn't really even understand what happened. And Joe's the one that explains, like, it's because she like, loves it. Like, she's going to keep doing it. Which is, I don't know, we can get into, like, what the, like, spark means and everything, because it's kind of confusing. You kind of have to sort it out. The whole, like, spark isn't, like, an actual action or purpose. It's just, like, you have to be ready to live or something like that. But that's kind of the first time. That kind of confuses things. But Joe says, like, yeah, maybe trombone is her spark. I don't know. And then he tries to give himself a lineup. And that doesn't go too well.
No.
Should have gone to Jonesy's barbershop.
That's what happened last time I got a haircut.
What did you do?
I think the importance of the scene with Connie, because I thought, like, she closed Joe, the cat, in the house and was like, I want to hang out with Connie instead. But then they just go sit on the staircase and then Connie leaves after playing. I think the importance of that is that 22 is starting to realize what a passion is. I guess it's what they call a spark in the movie. But she's realizing that people have actual purpose for living, and it drives them, even though it may not be always fulfilling. Like, it's a point of living, and she never thought that she needed that or wanted that. And I think she sees it more. So obviously she's willing to help Joe, so she's willing to go the distance and understands that Joe has his passion of playing music. But I think when she sees it in Connie, she sees it in like this innocent, youthful person
Right.
who's struggling to find a passion just like she is.
And it doesn't even make sense to 22 because Connie opens by saying, I don't want to do it anymore, and then plays and like talks herself into keep playing it. And she's like, doesn't understand how like passion works, I guess.
Yeah.
That's true. It was a cool scene. I think it's like quick where you kind of have to think about it, but like the story keeps going. But it was a cool moment. Connie doesn't come back, I don't think.
No.
So she just goes on her merry way.
Maybe she fell in a manhole.
Oh man. And she has to do the same thing with Joe. I gotta get to band practice by tomorrow.
Like middle school band.
Also, just brutal when she goes she balls out on the trombone in the opening scene, and all the kids just like hate her. You know.
That was tough.
That's what happened to me in middle school band. I was that good at trumpet, Steven, actually.
Yeah, I don't believe that at all.
I could be in turquoise. So they end up at a barber shop.
Yep.
Also a cool scene, actually. I thought another thing that you have to like chew on a little bit, because so the barber, like Joe's weird, right? Because it's 22, and he gets a lollipop, and he's like acting all strange and all. And he gets talking to the barber, and the barber's like, "Yeah, I wanted to be a veterinarian, but my like daughter got sick, and barber school was cheaper than veterinarian school." And 22's like, "But you were born to barber," like making it seem like it's like, or yeah,
that's
like
his
you're born.
spark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, yeah, no, but like I'm still happy, and I still like help people," which also kind of throws a wrench in everything and makes you like, I don't know, it's weird, and it makes Joe realize that he's only ever talked about jazz with the barber and never really got this backstory. And we learn, like, it kind of reinforces the idea that Joe only talks about jazz, and it's like puts blinders on him, and he doesn't kind of look outwardly or talk to other people like about them.
I think part of it is that maybe Joe in that moment, as he's looking on himself, talking all of a sudden and experiencing all these new things with the barber who, yeah, he only talks jazz, that maybe he's starting to get scared that he might be one of those people that's starting to become consumed with jazz.
Right.
And consumed with, being in the zone. And obviously, as we saw in the great before or whatever that kind of astro plane is that there's a chance that he may become one of those kind of lost souls.
And then you're freaking donezo.
You're donezo, man. You wander that place and run at people, really scary.
Oh, my God.
Waving your arms.
Yeah. Also, it's like he only sees the barber as like a means to help him, and as like a just way to talk shop about jazz and get his haircut so he looks good for his show. He's not seeing him as like another human being with hopes and dreams and, backstory.
Yeah.
And then also just a weird thing. I think his name's Paul.
Who talks Diggs, baby.
Yeah. Who just like shits on Joe. But then 22 as Joe like comes back, and it's like, oh, moment.
Yeah, I thought, side note, I thought Daveed Diggs was going to have a bigger role in this.
He was just Paul.
He was just Paul. He was in one scene, or two scenes, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, when you look up Soul, like he's like one of the first people on the on the cast list. Excuse me. I thought Daveed Diggs was going to play a big role in this.
They would have,
especially after. I thought he was going to be one of the musicians because he had such an incredible performance in Hamilton, and he's a musician. But no, they just wanted him to get a haircut and get shit on.
Get shit on. Well, while this is happening, Terry, the calculator man, with the soul abacus, he finds out that it's Joe. He comes and takes out Paul instead. And that's actually kind of scary too. Like then like Paul shows up in the alleyway with his eyes like huge and just like freaking out because he just died like randomly and then came back. Really
another
harrowing
shout
experience.
out to the animators. The way they incorporated Terry into all the different objects was pretty
cool.
incredible.
He's
like
the
scene where he's on the poster and then all of a sudden he's on this stop sign or the walk sign, and then he's in the chip or something like that. Like, I don't know, that was pretty incredible.
It was pretty incredible. It was a cool way to incorporate him.
So again,
He's
shout
all
out to the animators. You're the real heroes here.
Yeah.
Also, Terry was a little creepy, man. His voice was like this raspy, deep Australian, but also sounded a little bit feminine. It was a little bit creepy.
I couldn't place it. I was trying to think if it was like Taika Waititi or like I don't know. It sounded like someone that would do that. It's not. It's a woman, Rachel House.
Yeah, Rachel House.
Is that who does like? She definitely does like animated stuff. Yeah. She was in Thor Ragnarok, so there you go. That's a Taika Waititi connection.
There you go.
Yeah, it was a weird voice. I kind of liked it though.
Yeah.
So he gets a haircut and then he rips his pants.
Oof.
You know, and even we talked with Joker about how a lot of it seems like coincidence and a lot of it kind of is like the world acting on Arthur. And here, all of the kind of obstacles that show up kind of come out of character. Like, we get that he really has to like rip his pants so they can have the whole scene with the mother. But like, it makes sense. They set it up where like the pants are a little tight. It's like an old suit. And like 22 is still new in the body. So like the ripped pants, it makes sense and it forwards the plot and like builds momentum for like the place they want us to get. But it's like all within the context of it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is cool. And then, you know, it also is that like, oh shit moment where it's like Joe is going to have to talk to his mom as 22. Or 22 is going to have to talk to Joe's mom as Joe. It's probably a better way to say that.
That's like a Christopher Nolan movie right there.
Yeah.
Anyways. Yeah, but I think the other part of that is like when it's a real movie, when it's a drama like Joker and an event happens that we're like, well, of course that had to happen. Like, all right, whatever. Because it's real life. But when it's an animated movie, I don't know. I just kind of accept it way more. I'm just like, yeah, all right, that's fine. Like, it's goofy, like he ripped his pants, but also it will lead us to a big scene, like a pivotal scene in Joe's life that 22 will have to be in control of. So I'm not like, oh, wow, I'm supposed to believe that he ripped his pants, so now he has to go talk to his mom. It just doesn't matter to me as much because it's animated and it's, it's supposed to be a little bit goofy.
Yeah, that's true too. That it definitely has that on its side. I mean, it's like a kid's movie, so you can criticize it, but at the end of the day, like you can suspend your disbelief a little bit more.
Yeah, and they want you to. I mean, not everything in this movie is realistic.
I mean, we haven't died yet, so we don't really know what it's like.
It could be just like this.
Yeah, so we'll hold out on that. But yeah, the New York and all that, it's not exactly real life. So I think, yeah, the subway is on the way to Mom's house. Cool. Just like, I think you're right. Like the 22 innocence, but it's also kind of like an honesty where she just kind of says what she thinks. Like there's no filter. There's no kind of that you kind of pressed upon like filter to say nice things, not always say what you're thinking. And that comes out with like the busker where she just gives him a bagel. I mean, there's no like she doesn't have like the kind of like societal awareness or whatever. And like she doesn't hold the guardrail on the subway, which I actually one of the first times I was on the subway in Boston, I was like, yeah, I don't need to hold that, and I just slammed into the person next to me.
Oof.
I also drank the
Italian. Did they get mad at you? Why'd you bite?
I also just drank slushes that were underneath the seats too.
Hey,
a little 7 big
free is free.
Big Slurpee.
Big gulp.
Yeah, I don't know if you had anything else to say about the busker thing. I think that was just like a cool. I mean, the subway too, it was just to illustrate just the like day-to-day blank faces, like dead people inside. In one way.
Again, half of this movie is, more than half, is just really depressing. It's like pointing out the
like monotony
of life, maybe the like drones that we kind of become when we get sucked into our own world, and how we just kind of move through the motions every day, and how we enter this rat race, let's call it, of trying to become successful and how
Yeah.
it's so hard to pull ourselves out of that. And again, it's kind of strange because it's like maybe in that scene the kids that watch the movie won't notice anything. That's just another scene. But when you're an adult watching it, you realize how hard it can hit sometimes.
Oh yeah.
Even though before that he rips his pants bending over and it's a goofy little kids movie, like they do a good job, I think, of balancing the existential aspect of this film and sort of the lighthearted nature of it being a Pixar film.
Yeah. And being on public transportation, like it pretty much is just everyone looking down, people on phones, headphones,
Yeah.
reading books, and you're like, you see the same people every day. But for 22, everything's new, you know? And you don't have that kind of like glaze, you know? The suburban malaise.
The suburban malaise.
That's more like urban malaise.
Sam Elliott, the suburban malaise.
It sounds like food, but it's not. All right, so we go to the mom's tailor. Is there a name for it? It's not a tailor shop. What do you call that? Like a seamstress?
Seamstress, or I think seamstress is just.
That's the person?
No, I think it's like just dresses. Maybe, I don't know. Look it up, JMO.
All right, well, whatever. So she does that. 22 kisses the woman, the friend.
Right on the smackers, right on the lips.
As one does. And here we get into so like Joe's playing this whole lie. He doesn't want to tell his mom like what he's trying to do, what he needs to like tailor for. And so once 22's in the room with his mom, he like says this like as the cat, he says some kind of like off comment about like she never believed in him or whatever, just as like a sarcastic, it's like an inner thought basically that he's repressed for so long. But 22 actually says it, and that's like, to me, that was like a big moment in the difference between them, where that's where like there's no filter, and we see as the scene evolves, like that honesty actually got him what he wanted.
Yeah,
because his mom like understands him, like they had an honest conversation.
Understanding, yeah, that like. But also, he says something to the effect of like, if I'm not successful, like if I can't be a jazz musician, then I don't know what the purpose of me being here is, or something like that.
His life would amount to nothing. Something like that.
And I think obviously that's a callback later on in the film when he realizes that like maybe music isn't his spark. Maybe that's just part of his life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe it's not his complete purpose to be here. But I do think it helped. Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I do think it helped that, you know, if we're to believe that maybe if Joe was in his own body, he would never have told his mom that or said that to her. But because he was able to kind of be the cat in the situation, and again, almost looking on himself from the outside,
yeah,
he was able to say that. And then with 22 having no filter, finally he feels like he might be able to, you know, or finally he feels like he had a true conversation, an honest conversation with his mom.
Right, because she is honest with him too. Like you learn more about his dad and like how he was a jazz musician, how hard it was on him, how she had to support him, and like Joe doesn't have that person. And you get the impression that Joe hasn't heard that from her before, and it took him to be that honest to get her to be that honest. And then, you know, he gets his blue suit.
He gets the blue suit, man.
Looking fly. I think that's when they meet Moonwind, right? I don't think anything happens after that.
That's when they go to the jazz club, and then they're sitting outside waiting for Moonwind, yeah. And there's that scene where... What do you call that thing that falls from the...
It's like a helicopter seed.
Helicopter.
I don't know what
when the helicopter
called.
falls from the sky. I can't remember what it's called.
I'll look it up.
Give it a Google.
It's actually called a helicopter seed.
That is not true.
It's a maple seed, but
maple seed.
They're referred to as helicopters, whirlers, twisters, or whirligigs.
Whirlers.
Yeah, those are awesome, dude. I love those things. So cool.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. But that's what happens. I think that's obviously the big moment is before Moonwind shows up to reverse their positions in life, to send Joe back to his body. She's looking up at the sky and looking up into that tree, and the whirler, the maple seed starts spinning down to her, and Joe catches it. And that's a cool moment.
Right, that's where 22 basically decides she doesn't want to give up the body anymore and wants to stay on Earth. Like, this whole time she thought Earth was like the worst place to be and there's no point in doing it. She collected all those little like trinkets over the course of the day that kind of represent the small things that, you know, she enjoyed so much, and she's not ready to give it up right at the moment that Joe like needs her to give it up. So then she runs away, and then Joe chases after, and then that's when Terry gets him. Mm-hmm. Really cool. Another cool animation is the both times that they fall down back into the grate before. The first time, Joe, it goes like black and white, and it's all like trippy, and it almost looks like it's like raw animation before they like filled everything out, kind of thing. It was cool. And then this time, it's like the like series of squares or something. It's hard to describe because it's like abstract. So Terry gets them, and they're back in the grate before, and we actually realize 22 got the Earth badge. Huge. Joe did it.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Marie Antoinette couldn't do it. Abraham Lincoln couldn't do it.
Joe Gardner,
middle school teacher Joe Gardner gave 22 the Earth badge.
Yeah. And that's awesome. Legend shit, to say the least.
That means Joe is headed to the great beyond. Sorry, Joe. You're this week's biggest loser.
Yep. That's the day, you know, Jerry is like, okay, Joe, you gotta say goodbye, or something like that.
You gotta send her off to Earth.
And then, so 22, Joe, and Jerry have this whole discussion where she gets 22 has the Earth badge, and Joe's basically arguing like, no, you got that because you were me. Like, I love music, so when you heard music, like, it gave you the badge. It was like this like transitive Earth badge property or whatever. And 22 is really upset about it. She's like, no, I don't think so. But she throws the badge at him basically and runs off to her box. And Joe actually goes back to Earth.
Yeah.
And he's in his body.
No, so he's about to send 22 off with the Earth pass. So she's going to go into Earth, whatever. But then right before he does that, or right before 22 is going to leave, it gives Joe the pass and disappears.
Right. And then does he just wake up?
Yeah, he goes back to Earth. And wakes up in the subway, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and Joe, and 22 goes back to her box.
Back to the box. No love box.
Ooh.
So Joe, he's got a new lease on life.
Mm-hmm.
He marches into Dorothea Williams' room or whatever, and he says, if you don't hire me back, it's going to be the biggest mistake of your life, lady. And she's like, okay, fair enough. Paraphrasing, of course, and with a lot less enthusiasm than the great performances. So Joe gets his big break, Steven, just like you're about to get your big break.
Big break.
So you can relate.
Hopefully I don't fall in a manhole.
Listen, you have to do whatever it takes. So he jazzes out. He jazzes. That's actually part of the movie where it's like, I was jazzing, and it's like, that sounds a lot like another word that is not meant for kids' movies.
Well, maybe that's part of it.
Yeah, it could be. It could be. And so he like, does he get in the zone during that performance? I'm trying to think.
Mm-hmm.
I think he does, yeah. And he's like, this is sick. But then afterwards, this is when I was talking about structure and like he gets what he wants but not what he needs, right? So like the whole thing he wants it's like physically the earth pass and getting back into his body. So he accomplishes that, and what he wants is to be a successful jazz musician, and he does that. But then he realizes, like, actually it's not about jazz, and what he needs to do is actually give up the past to 22 and realize that, you know, it's more about like the everyday living in the little moments than it is like this successful jazz career kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of in that moment where he like tells Dorothea Williams outside of the theater when everyone's
Right.
gone. He's like, I've waited my entire life for this day, and I thought it would feel different. Like, I thought I would feel better, and I thought I'd feel like I finally completed my dream. Or I guess in this case, like, you know, he thought he had fulfilled his spark, as they call
Right.
it. But he realizes that that doesn't truly matter if he hurts someone that he cared about in the process.
Yeah.
Because he realizes that 22 was starting to find purpose, was starting to find their spark, and starting to realize that there's more to life, and that there's actual, you know, purpose on earth that she can find, and she's starting to love that. And right when she's starting to love it, she gives it up and gives it to him.
Yeah.
And that's obviously slowly eating away at him.
Right.
And he realizes that the only way for him to truly fulfill his purpose is to give it back to her.
And then, what did you think about Dorothea Williams goes into this little like anecdote, or maybe it's an allegory.
Yeah,
Either way,
fully understand that.
it's a short story about two fish, and one of them's like, I want to see like what the ocean's like, and the gist is basically like, no, you're in the ocean, and he's like, no, I'm in the water. I want to like see the ocean. It's like, you're in the ocean, man. And then Dorothea Williams just hops in a cab.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make of that?
Oof, I was hoping you'd go first.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's a lot of this movie is like you kind of have to think about it, but like it's a movie, so they're not gonna like pause for 5 minutes while you try and like process the whole thing. I kind of saw it as like you're just to be alive, and is just kind of the purpose. Like when it goes back to that Joe line where he says that like walking and sky watching, those aren't purposes. That's just regular old living. Like, whatever your goal is, it's better to kind of see where you are now and appreciate the small things, because there really is no like grass is on the green on the other side kind of. There's no other place to get to. Like, you're gonna always be where you are. I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it as well. It's just sort of like you have to learn to live in the moment. And you know, that's sort of how the movie ends, is the Jerrys grant him a pass back to Earth and back to his body, and the Jerry asks him, like, how are you going to spend your life? And he's like, I don't really know, but I know that I'm going to enjoy every moment I have. I think it was just a sort of a fun way of explaining that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of what I took from that conversation between Dorothea and Joe.
And like he goes home, and it's cool. So he goes to the piano, he takes out all like the little items, and he goes back to like the zone to talk to 22, and she's becoming a lost soul. Even though she was never a born soul, but...
Can I just say that this guy took all those items out of his pocket?
He played that jazz show with just like shit.
With pizza crust and
He
a
had to
bagel
smell bad,
in his
right?
pocket, dude.
Lollipop.
In his dad's suit. And a lollipop.
No bag.
Joe, what are you doing?
But it is like, it's a beautiful moment when it's like the montage of, well, okay. Yeah, no, the residue in that pocket actually is
Don't stick your hand in there, Joe.
Disgusting.
Sticky fingers.
How did he play the piano? He better not put his hand in his pocket before
dude.
that.
That baby grand is going to be sticky.
No bueno, Joe. But in the emotional climax of the movie, Steven.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
He has this like montage where like his whole life basically flashes before his eyes, and it is all the same moments from his like exhibit where he goes to the jazz club, he's alone at the restaurant, but this time he's eating pecan pie and like really enjoying it, like in his head. and you kind of, I don't know, it makes you think like really your life is basically just a series of these small moments of like memories of with other people, of like the small pleasures of like the taste of something, or like, you know, they show the ocean like waves on the feet, like these little sensations or whatever that are just small parts of life, but make up like who you are.
Yeah, and I think it was a really beautiful little montage of like moments of his life, in that to him the only purpose he had and the only goal he had was to be a famous jazz musician and to be touring and to make a living off of just that. But we see little moments of like him playing the piano next to his dad. So it's not necessarily that his dad ever got to see his name on his name in lights, but it's that he got to play with his dad, and that, he realizes how special just that moment is. Or his whole teaching career, he's so hesitant to take a full-time job because to him it seems almost useless. Like, these kids hate it, they don't like it. But he realizes that he touched one kid's life.
Right.
That he impacted the drummer for Dorothea Williams, who invited him to play. And if it wasn't for, him, that little kid would never have grown up to be a drummer, and he would have never gotten that chance to play with Dorothea Williams.
It's true.
So I think it's realizing all these little moments and these little vignettes into his life, and realizing the importance of not the grand scheme and not the end picture, but I hate saying this quote because everyone says it, but it's not about the destination, but it's about the journey.
Whoa.
And yeah, call me a
living in the now.
Living in the now, man. Live, laugh, love.
That's
man.
That Moonwind, baby.
Moonwind.
That's what he believes.
I think Moonwind was just a crack addict.
Yeah,
anyways,
there's like a cut scene later on at the end of the credits where he's just shooting up heroin in like an alleyway. And that brings him right back to the zone.
That brings him right to the astral plane, baby. But yes, that was by far my favorite moment of the film.
Yeah.
Was that little montage. And it's not only just because that piece, that minute or so of the movie was beautiful, it's because of the contrast to the first montage of his life that he sees, which is all sad and depressing and him alone. And we contrast it with the same moments, but finally a full picture. Because in the opening exhibit of his life, it's just him. It's isolated. The spotlights are only shining on him, and it's all depressing. But I think the purpose is that he's realizing it's the people in his life that make the difference.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you.
Steven just unlocked life. Welcome to his TED Talk.
Welcome to my TED Talk.
Yeah, I agree. That was probably my favorite moment. I cried.
I was bawling my eyes out.
And decided to just get all those items and shove them in my pockets. For the Halloween costume next year. So then he goes and chases after 22. She's the...
Is that a pizza crust in your pocket, or you just decided to see me? No, it's actually a pizza crust.
Actually, I take little items and put them in my pocket forever.
Is that a New York slice in your pocket, or you just decided to see me? No, it's an authentic New York slice, baby.
We know a particular person that used to refer to that as a slice. Remember that?
What?
Dude, he has to have a big slice or something like that. You remember?
No.
Oh, man.
He said slice?
I think he was talking about Kawhi Leonard. He was talking about how big his hands were. He's like, bro, he's got to have a massive slice or something. Yeah. We're chasing 22 through the zone.
Why didn't they use Taylor Swift's song as 22's soundtrack?
It's actually a good point.
What's with that?
That actually is the song that inspired the character.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually was curious why 22 was the number. I was thinking if Soul was the 22nd Pixar movie, and then I just was too lazy to count them all up. But it seems like it would be about there. Maybe not. There's 4 Toy Stories, so... That's a good question. But Taylor Swift is not a jazz cat, so it doesn't really fit the film. Or make elevator music, which...
That's true.
Maybe she does. I don't know. Check out her new album on Spotify and all streaming services. Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you for sponsoring us.
Us and UPS. Remember that?
No.
She had a couple of years ago. She was on UPS trucks like that. The black and white album. I forget what it was called.
What? That is
Yeah.
weird.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Us and UPS. So Joe's chasing 22 through the zone. And they end up in this like weird, the sand starts taking shape of all her like doubters, like the mentors, including Joe. Because Joe tells her it's just regular old living, and like it keens in on the like you have no purpose thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when you think about it, 22 has been through a lot. Like she plays it off, but really has gotten the "it's a no for me" dog from like Mad People. And that kind of all comes to a T here. And Joe then brings out the helicopter seed to kind of remind her of everything, and it's kind of like a peace offering. And then he offers her the big old Earth badge. And it's kind of his, like, kind of completes his arc. He's like a new man, you know?
Yeah.
And he basically, like, leads 22 to the edge of the circle. And he says, like, I'll go as far as I can. They skydive towards Earth. And then Joe ends up on the old moving walkway again.
Headed into the great beyond, baby.
And I don't know, and then, well, Jerry shows up and is like, well, because you gave, 22, you managed to get her the Earth badge, we're willing to give you another shot.
Yeah.
And at that moment, what did you think he was going to do?
A part of me immediately thought, like, oh, he's going to deny it. He's going to, like, because he was fulfilled by giving that chance to 22, he's now going to move on to the great beyond. Like, he's okay with that. But then I was like, there's no way, because he's a middle-aged man. I was like, that would be pretty devastating for his mother, for his class, for his friends. I was like, he's got to take it, right?
Yeah.
I was like, that would be pretty brutal if he just left and we were supposed to believe that, like, he actually just died.
Yeah. In a different version of this, maybe he, like, accepts death as, like, the final frontier and is just like, yeah, no.
Yeah, maybe in the version where when he falls down a manhole, he just breaks his ankle.
Yeah. In an uber realistic version. But like you said, he says, yeah, he takes it and he's like, yeah, now I'm going to live, like, every day the fullest or something like that. Which, like, fair enough, you know. It was kind of a bailout. But, you know, I think Joe deserved it at the end of the day. And they have the whole thing with Terry where they just move the abacus one over. It's a little gag. Very funny.
Yeah, Terry. The Jerrys love messing with the Terry.
You're telling me. And then Joe's like a new man, you know? And it's too bad. It would have been cool to see, like, 22 in a body. Well, I guess that's open for the sequel.
Okay, Matt. Creepy.
It'd be cool to see 22 catch a body.
Oh, dude, they take a shot at the Knicks, man.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get when we go on like best lines.
They were like, oh man, what did 22 say? She's like, oh look, I've been messing with this team for decades, and then just cut to the guy missing the dunk and the announcer being like, oh, the Knicks lose again.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I was like, man, brutal.
I mean, it's not like the
shout out to Amari Stoudemire, my favorite New York Knick. And be
like,
sure to check out our sponsor today is the Baller Scholar podcast.
I thought you were going to say the New York Knicks.
And the New York Knicks. The Baller Scholar podcast.
The Amari Stoudemire thing, that's basically like you saying like the Matt Hasselbeck. It's basically same era more or less.
Amari Stoudemire.
My favorite Knicks player is freaking John Starks, you know? Patrick Ewing.
I know that. I know Patrick.
I like blanked on Patrick Ewing for a second. I want to call him Ernest Hemingway.
Chauncey Billups, did he play for the Knicks?
Yeah, he did for a little bit.
Hey, let's go.
Very good, Steven. Very good. I liked in the little montage at the beginning of like the mentor orientation. They say like they have the little souls like introduce themselves, and one of them is like, I'm a manipulative megalomaniac who's intensely optimistic.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, is that like Hitler? Like, who is, like, what is that
person
Jerry
gonna
goes,
be? Ooh, she's going to be a handful.
That was brutal. I don't know. Pardon me. I wish this was in theaters because it would have been cool to. I mean, I don't know if I'd actually see it in theaters. No offense.
Oh,
I probably
please,
would
you
have
watch
actually
it
with my
your
family.
parents, dude.
Yeah.
Let's go see it for Valentine's Day.
I don't go to Valentine's Day movies with my parents.
Crazy stupid love.
That is false. No, it would be interesting to see this in theaters with like a younger audience to see like what they react to. Because I feel like most of this movie is like over their heads. Like I get, like some kids' movies will work on like different levels, but this one kind of like alternates where most of it's more like an adult movie and then it'll kind of like stoop down and do like a sight gag or something like funny cat thing.
Yeah,
it's almost like to keep the kids interested. Like normally it's a kids movies on like the kids level and they'll throw in like a dirty joke for the adults in the audience and then go back to the kids, but this almost felt opposite, whereas mostly an adult thread and then every once in a while they do something like funny.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I like that, but again, yeah, I kind of wonder how a kid would react to seeing this. Because so much of it is not trying to hide the fact that it's trying to explore existential ideas and trying to, explore the afterlife. Right. Or the fact that, like, in the very beginning, those unborn souls, Joe is like, am I in heaven? She's like, no. And he's like, am I in hell? I mean, like, he's not trying to hide the fact that, well, he says H-E double hockey sticks.
Yeah, of course.
And they're all like, hell.
And that's funny.
Like, Mike,
Yeah, very much so. They're cheating off their own stuff. But
yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, but I like that about it. I think it's a good mix of, like, goofy and your typical Pixar movie, but also, you watch this and it actually makes you think, like...
Yeah.
I feel like it's not too often I watch an animated movie and I leave the theater or close my laptop and I'm still thinking about it for a while. But this one, it makes you think, especially the scenes where it's a montage of his life and it's an exhibit of his life. You really can't help but think, like, what would mine look like? Like, would I actually be happy if in this moment I died and I had to look back on my life?
And would you?
No, I would hate it. It's been the worst 22 years ever.
If I died today, my life would amount to nothing. That's what he says.
Whew. Damn, that's a tough one. Joe, do you need to talk to somebody?
Joe didn't need to be fall down a manhole cover. He need to go to therapy.
Yeah, I know,
teaching
man.
Unhealthy mental health habits.
Oh man, what was that? I gotta stop quoting these stupid cheesy quotes. But what is it? It's like if your life is a movie and you had to rewatch it today, would it be worth rewatching or something like that?
Dude, I watch my basketball highlights every day. So
do I.
Mine?
My favorite, yeah, yours.
Right on. Yeah, it's.
I tell you what, man, it's all downhill from here.
It is it's a cool package of package that idea. I mean, really, just the general sense is just live every day to its fullest, because you never know when you're gonna fall down a manhole cover, and then enjoy the people around you.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't know. We can get into the spark thing's weird to me because they say in the orientation, to get your spark, you go to the hall of everything, you try out a bunch of stuff, and someone does some archery or something, and then gets it, and you're you're never gonna get a job.
Legolas.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, maybe hopefully that soul, if that soul's going medieval times, it can be an archer on a castle or something. But if it's modern day, you got to get to the Olympics or something.
We just watched The Birth of Hawkeye.
A little Marvel crossover.
What
but
would
then
Thanos'
it's
spark be?
World domination. That would be mad funny, actually.
Ass.
He's the megalomaniac with intensely optimistic.
That's true.
Oh man, Thanos should have been 22's mentor. That would have been something.
Can you imagine one of those little fuzzy unborn souls being with a Thanos voice?
Oh my god. And Thanos just chin. Huge.
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
Joe could take on Thanos, let's be honest. Let's get real here. No, but so it's it seems like they kind of tie together a specific passion with the Earth badge, but then they make it seem like they say like Earth, you get it when you're ready to live. So then that makes me think, I mean, it took me a while to come to this, but I think it's kind of like, it's not about finding a specific passion, i.e. archery, jazz piano, screenwriting, whatever Thanos was.
World domination.
Murdering half of all living things in the universe. Whatever it may be. It's not about that. It's more about just finding like passion in general. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Yeah.
if you're really good at archery, that's like, just to be passionate about something is more important than the specific thing. And that's where Joe was off, is like he thought it was associated with jazz when it's really just the passion itself, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
gets
it's
kind of
about-
muddly. Oh my gosh.
What was that?
I just broke my knee.
Oh, man.
My knee is hollow. Say something cool.
Yo, what's up, my jazz cats?
Not like that.
Oh, sorry. No, I think the spark, the idea is that, like, yeah, it's not something specific, although they do make it a little confusing because there's the Hall of Everything, because they make it seem like, yeah, you have to find one singular purpose.
Right.
I think it's just about finding motivation and finding beauty in life.
I guess. Yeah.
In that Joe finds that in jazz, but he also realizes that I don't need just jazz. Like, it's a part of my life, yes, but he realizes that I think through helping 22 find purpose, that was part of his purpose, that he really enjoyed helping someone and helping this unborn soul find their purpose or find a reason to live. Not a singular reason, but to find multiple reasons.
Yeah, I like that. I like that
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much.
We can talk like performances. Pretty good all around. I feel like there wasn't like someone you're going to be talking about specifically. I feel like everyone just does a good job, you know? Like there's not like Robin Williams and Aladdin kind of thing.
No, I think it's all pretty even keeled in terms of it's just solid performances.
It is like
they
a
got good
realistic
actors for all
take,
of it.
you know? It is not like a fantasy world where like your characters are going to be really like zany and over the top, you know? But very solid. I like how one of the things I noticed in terms of soundtrack, we talked about a little bit, but like the difference between like New York is really busy, very claustrophobic, kind of dirty, but that's like where the jazz comes in, and the whole like idea of jazz is this like improvisational kind of thing going on. And then the Great Before is very, like I said, sterile, very spacious. I thought that was cool though, and the music, like the soundtrack reflected that too, where you know you had the weird, peaceful, creepy music in the Great Before, and you have like the jazz kind of thing going on in New York. It was cool. And like the Great Before is all about planning, and jazz is all about just being in the now, you know?
Yes, sir.
You feel me, dog?
You got to be in that zone, man.
Do you ever play
Television.
jazz?
You like jazz?
I can't believe we got through this that far without saying that. What is
That's
the
true.
deal with between this and
The B movie?
between this and the Damien Chazelle movies, jazz is like all-time high right now.
Why? What else besides La La Land?
Like, I guess Whiplash isn't really jazz, but it's like musical. I think jazz is just like a cool story device where it is like all about improv. There's a lot to that. Also, the Green Book was jazz too. Was a jazz musician.
And that's an Oscar winner. That's Best Picture, baby.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I think this will probably... I mean, in terms of like legacy, I mean, we talked kind of where it stacks up Pixar-wise. I think I think it's up there. I don't think it has really like the iconic like characters where you will sell a ton of like action figures or anything like that. But I think from like a depth standpoint and like a thematic standpoint, it's a really cool addition to kind of their collection.
Yeah, I think also, I don't know, I think it was released at an interesting time. Obviously, they started making it a long time ago, but to release it in the midst of this pandemic when a lot of people are experiencing these existential crises,
Yeah.
I think it's a good sort of film to have out there. That kind of makes people think, but also to encourage people to appreciate everything in a time where a lot of people are struggling to do that, obviously, for pretty clear reasons. To, try and take joy in what little you may have right now or in the confinement that you might be experiencing right now as the pandemic is ongoing.
Yeah. And put those pizza crusts in your pockets.
Make sure to never eat the crust, folks. Put it right in your pocket.
That's what pockets are for. And from like a representational standpoint, this is like the first Pixar movie to have a African American protagonist, and it was kind of a big deal to have, African Americans represented in animation and not like a kind of stereotypical or like exaggerated way, and kind of just animate them, as people. And that was kind of indicative of the whole film in this kind of realist take on New York, and not make it kind of over the top, which is easy to do in animation, I feel like, to kind of go really big because, you don't have the same kind of constraints as you would in a live action movie.
Yeah.
Which I think was really cool, really kind of a cool take on it, and definitely part of this legacy. I think Pixar is kind of doing that a lot and leading the way, that too, when you talk about them as kind of the lead animation studio, some of the kind of social things that they're doing. With Coco was kind of like this too, with the kind of existential thing, talking about death.
Don't spoil it now. I haven't seen that.
Oh, sorry. Coco dies, he also falls down a manhole cover.
God damn it.
Shaft? I don't know, manhole, whatever.
Manhole.
He falls down a manhole. I guess there's nothing left to say other than giving it a score on the Cinema Scholar scale, Steven.
All right.
What do you think?
Okay, folks. Listen, I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10.
Yep.
I think that sits, high enough because I did really enjoy this movie. And again, it makes you think, and a lot of the times it's a drama or a thriller that really makes me think about my own life and reflect on what's happening in my own life and sort of my mortality, or, gets me into a sort of existential mindset. Usually it's not an animated movie, but this one did, and I really like that fact. And I really like that they didn't just cater to a kid's audience and then, throw in a couple of jokes for the adults. I think it's really a movie that adults are meant to watch. And I really enjoy that. And again, ultimately the animation is just incredible. I mean, you have to watch it for yourself and just focus on the animation and the details they put into it, and the shading and the reflections. Like, if you are an artist, you understand how incredibly difficult it is to create something this beautiful in a single photo, let alone an entire movie. And there's so much beauty in the art of this movie, and I really like that. So I'm giving it 7.5 out of 10. Mr. Matthew Lowry, what is your score for this on the Cinema Scholar scale?
8.
All right.
I think, I'll echo even what you said last time about Sound of Metal. I think this is another one that unfortunately did end up having to be released on streaming services, but one that definitely demands your full attention visually, as you said. And I mean, with all these themes, I think it is something that should be reflected upon. And just from a kind of production standpoint, I mean, I really don't have any problems with like the foundation of this film. Performances are solid. I do think, whether it will be like iconic and kind of be this like powerhouse, like Toy Story-esque thing, I don't know. But I really enjoyed it, and I think it's an important movie to watch. And I hope if we talk kind of Oscar talk, I think I mean, it's probably kind of a shoo-in, I feel like, for best animated film. I mean, it even opens up the discussion of, like, why not put an animated film up for best picture, but, you know, that might be a whole nother discussion.
Yeah.
So
maybe we should have an Oscar episode where we talk about that.
Maybe we should, Steven. Maybe we should.
And we get dressed up in tuxedos and
even
though it's just audio.
And we put lollipops in them.
Put pizza crust.
We'd also like to
in
dedicate this episode to our big animation friend, Scotty Kaplan.
Scott Kaplan, Disney's #1 fan.
Yep, that's true.
You will...
single-handedly
you can take my
funded
life
this film.
if I'm wrong. You will never find a bigger Disney fan than Mr. Scott Kaplan.
You will not. And he actually suffered some serious injury recently.
Guys, we got a GoFundMe set up for this guy. He took a pretty nasty fall. Our poor friend Scotty took a pretty nasty
Luckily
fall
not down a
on
manhole
the ski
cover.
slope. Luckily he didn't die, I tell you what. But he took a pretty nasty fall on the ski slopes just the other day.
And he actually didn't like this movie, so we'd like to dedicate this podcast to him.
Again, you'll never find a bigger Disney-Pixar fan. But he
Except
didn't like
for this
one.
one, he's actually moved on. Who makes Smurfs? Because he really likes Smurfs. I think he might have moved on to them. Is that DreamWorks?
If you made Smurfs, write in, guys, because we want to hear from you and our friend Scotty. It would mean the world if you'd give him a shout-out and wish him well.
Oh, man. Yeah, thanks, Scotty. I hope you're listening.
Scotty, we miss you, buddy.
He was actually meant to be on this podcast.
I hope the morphine isn't worn off yet.
Yeah, I actually asked him to be on this
I hope the
podcast.
Vicodin is still running through your face.
I said, Scotty, would you like to join me and Steve to talk about Soul? And he replied with an x-ray of a shattered shoulder. So he never got back, actually, to answer straight up.
That is true. So maybe he did want to do it, but we never gave him the chance.
He'll hop on when we get to Smurfs, I guess. Sheesh. Yeah, Smurfs, Sony. It's Sony, so we'll see. This Soul might have single-handedly put Scotty on the Sony train. We'll have to bring him on to let him discuss that. So, thanks for listening. This has been the Cinema Scholar podcast on Soul.